Dom, I am so excited to speak with you today because you're not addicted to alcohol, you're not addicted to drugs, but you're still doing 1 year off alcohol this year. Before we even start the podcast, a huge congratulations is due. Dom just walked in and she said, I just got engaged.
I know. I literally was like, sorry I'm late. I was in the Hawkesbury. I got engaged this week. Like, it's all been happening. So excited.
Yeah, how are you feeling?
Oh, I'm on cloud nine. I got goosebumps. I just love him so much, and it does. You think that it will feel different, but I think that's when you know it's right, because it doesn't. It just feels like we've progressed and like solidified the relationship.
What a year to kick off sobriety, like bang, engaged.
I know. 30th, all the things like this year.
I'm excited for you, boo. Let's start with your childhood, if you feel comfortable talking about that. What was your childhood like?
I had an incredible childhood. I'm really blessed. My family, my parents are still together, which is really rare these days. And yeah, I grew up with my family. We went on family holidays. We traveled the world. My mum instilled journaling in me from a really young age, because we used to travel not in school holidays, after the school holidays, because it was cheaper, you know. And my mum and dad always knew that you would learn more traveling than you would at school at that age. So my homework was always to journal every night. So that was something I did. I remember I had a red snake skin journal. It was my first one when I was younger. Drew stick figures and just little scribbles and writing. So my family life was really good. And when I think about alcohol and my upbringing, my parents were not big drinkers. They'd have a drink here and there. They would let us taste alcohol if we wanted to. I even remember, though, when I did start getting into drinking, you know, mum would buy us like a couple breezes because her relationship with alcohol was good, I think. So, yeah, very grateful for my upbringing.
And do you think that relaxed approach to parenting, it didn't like spark this curiosity to drink inside of you because you were allowed to do it if you wanted to?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, we've all been teenagers. We've all been young. I think my parents would give me 3 breezes, but like I'd drink 10 more at the party. Do you know what I mean? And I only really got into alcohol when my friends were drinking, not because of my parents at all. I think the relaxed approach is good. I often think when I have kids, I'll be like that as well, because I see the kids even with chocolate and lollies who weren't allowed it as kids. They just want it. I think you want to have a real balance. The word balance comes to mind with all these things.
And I think when you find someone who you're so in love with, myself included, you do start thinking of how we're going to parent and what are we going to restrict, because I'm right there with you. My listeners will know I'm under like deep hypnosis because I wasn't allowed sugar, obviously the drinking and the alcohol. So it's so interesting. I think we should maybe just tell the listeners about your work, because I want it to loop back to your gratitude journal that you were talking about.
Yeah, so for anyone who's not sure, I am Dom and I have a podcast called Self Dom. But before I got into the wellness space, I have been a model since I was 15. So 14 years, going into 15 years this year, which is crazy. I was scouted really young. And I think getting into modeling young made me grow up really fast. I was around alcohol party scenes. I looked older.
Cocaine, surely.
I looked older than most 15-year-olds. I could buy alcohol. We called, like, without a fake ID. Like, they would just give it to me because I looked older. So I've modeled for a long time. And in that life of mine, I struggled with insomnia, disordered eating, a dependency on red wine and sleeping pills to fall asleep. And I'm sure we will dive into that part of my life. But it definitely put me on a bad path. And it was a constant comparison, the constant feeling of being not good enough when you don't get a casting or you don't get a job. And also just having to work the long hours, meeting new people all the time. There was no consistency. I only know my schedule the day before. That really lack of routine led me down those bad paths and those bad habits. So going on from there, I feel like that hardship and that rock bottom I hit allowed me to realize what was important in my life. And there's a few things that were the rock bottom. It was me being unable to see myself having children one day because I thought I'll never be able to not have a red wine to fall asleep because I was dependent on it. It was the disordered eating and those patterns and those habits, the impact it was having on my relationships to others and to myself. Rock bottom as well was 4 years ago, my mum being diagnosed with cancer, and that whole journey with that, realizing that your health is your wealth, and it's so cliche, but I thought, okay, I really need to change my habits and my practices. And from that and from those learnings, I've now really dived into the wellness space with the podcast. I have a gratitude journal, the self journal. It has prompts in it, and that daily ritual has been the number one tool in finding my purpose and becoming my truest and most authentic self. And I also host retreats and events. So yeah, quite a shift, but I think it is a great story to share because people can see how your life can change. And I often think as well, I've gone sober for the year, but some people who might see that might say, oh, I've been out with her. That's not her. She's bullshit. Like, don't you ever think that some people would see what you're doing now and be like, oh, it's just a mask. It's not real. Mm-hmm. But people do change. And when you put the effort to change, what can happen in your life and the changes, it's profound.
Amen. Speaking to the choir, I want to go back to this red wine dependency. What age were you when you had that realization, like, I cannot go to sleep without this substance?
It was my early 20s. I definitely would drink before, but that need for the red wine was in my early 20s. I remember taking the little red wines off the plane, taking them with me to the hotel room before shoots. And yeah, it was just, it's funny because I look back at it and I'm not sure if it was actually the dependency on the alcohol to fall asleep or like the OCD of it, of this is part of my ritual. And now I've changed those rituals where I can't go to sleep unless I have my eye mask, my Kindle, my earplugs. But back then, maybe it was OCD tendencies where I can't go to sleep unless I have my red wine. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it was my early 20s. And, you know, they do say at 25, your frontal cortex develops, so you become a lot more aware of things. And I do think it was like 21 till about 25. And then, yeah, I just started having awakenings at 25 thinking, okay, something's got to change. And also COVID did happen. And COVID meant that I wasn't going out as much. I was working. So I was able to actually focus on getting high quality rest and not drinking and fixing it. Because there was always awareness. I never drank at night and thought this is normal.
Okay. Yeah.
I always drank at night and thought this is bad. Like, this is bad. But what was more important to me was shutting off the mind and going to bed, not lying there thinking about everything, you know? And that's where the journalings help so much because you let go of thoughts and you put it on paper. And instead of ruminating, you think, oh, it's actually not that big of a deal. Oh, this happened today. That's amazing. I have so much to be grateful for. And that perspective shift that happens. So, yeah, it was a 4 to 5 year period.
Dom, you're journaling, because I think this could help a lot of listeners out. So what do you recommend? Do you recommend at night if you have anxious thoughts or if you can't sleep, first thing in the morning? When should we be journaling?
So I'm such a big believer in morning and night. Morning journaling allows you to shift your perspective instantly. And some mornings I think I have nothing to be grateful for. My mum's been in hospital recently for 3 weeks. This cancer's spread. It's been an absolute terrible time. That's actually why I think Tom rushed this proposal. It's actually my great-grandma's wedding ring.
And it is beautiful. It's like a cool girl ring in 2025.
I know. Beautiful. Yes, I feel like that understanding with my mum, I've had mornings where I don't have anything in my mind, have nothing to be grateful for. But the one statistic I love is that 150,000 people pass away every day. So if I'm waking up, okay, I'm here, I'm being, I can move my body, I can swim in the ocean, I can have a matcha. sometimes it's just the simplest things, or sometimes it's a big thing, like I've got an epic day planned, or I'm coming on, Soberly Speaking podcast. Fuck yeah. So whatever it is, but that morning gratitude allows you to start the day with a glass half full attitude. That energy manifests into the day. So the way you interact with people. So then you might attract an opportunity. You might meet someone you connect with because you've changed your perspective in the morning. And then at night, because I've had anxiety and insomnia, the first prompt in the journal at night is I let go of. And it's letting go of those thoughts. We have 9 negative thoughts for every positive thought. It's human nature. So we need to actively be rewiring our brain to see more positive and to see the good that was in the day. And you also check in and you write to yourself, what am I proud of myself for? Like, bank the wins. Like Mark Boris always talks about, bank the wins. And you've got to bank those wins, because when you see it on paper, morning and night, then you're more likely to continue doing those little things so you can be proud. And on the topic of sobriety and alcohol, I remember the journaling having a profound impact when it was a Sunday morning. And it was a morning I didn't drink, out of the blue. And I was always so grateful to be fresh on a Sunday. And I remember that happening quite a few times and me thinking, I'm never grateful to be hungover and to be here with Uber Eats bags around me. But I'm always grateful when it's a Sunday and I'm fresh. So that, writing it down, just gets you to see what's happening in the mind and become aware. I think the problem I'm meant to solve in this world is unawareness. I think people are unaware of the potential in their life. So I'm so driven to just let people be aware of their thoughts, let people be aware of the life they can have, the life they can lead. And often the person who's making it not possible is yourself. You're the only person in the way. So yeah, journaling in the morning and night.
Oh, Dom, I can feel feel the gratitude coming through. I love your energy. You're waking me up. I love it. I want to go back to the drinking red wine, because I actually didn't even know that you did that. Do you think it was because of the industry you were in, or was it your friendship circle? Why was this so normalized to you?
I think honestly it was a moment of desperation. It wasn't because people around me were doing it. I was always so envious on models trips when I was away with girls and they just go to bed. I was like, I would dread going to bed. My insomnia was really bad. Like, I remember with my ex-boyfriend, he'd go to bed. I'd sneak out of the bedroom, open my red wine, pour it. I'd wake up with red lips, red mouth from red wine. It was so bad. But yeah, it was something I actually kind of hid. And I think only when I've created the podcast and out the other end where I can look back and think, okay, there was growth there. I want to share this. I want people to know that there is a way out. It was something I always hid. It wasn't something that people around me were doing.
A lot of my guests, they had archaic rules for themselves. So they'd say, I never thought I had a problem or a dependency because I didn't drink before 5 p.m. Was there anything that you told yourself?
I think because I knew it was a problem, I would not drink all day and then just have a red wine at 9 p.m. just to fall asleep. And the worst part as well was if I'd had a night out, then I'd have the red wine still. So my body was never getting that break from it. But yeah, there wasn't ever me telling myself it's not a problem. I knew. Yeah. I knew the whole time, and I knew as it was getting worse. It would be one night I'd do it here and there, and then it became okay, if I've got something on in the morning, I'll be overthinking it. And I think being a model, there's so much pressure to look a certain way, to be a certain way on set. That head noise for me was crippling all the time. And, it makes me sad because I see and I talk to my community and they've been following me and they're like, oh, you've always been so healthy. We've always looked up to you. And I was a shell of a human for such a long time. I remember, I always love talking about the dopamine baseline. My dopamine baseline was so low. I felt so low. Every time I looked in the mirror, I did not see what other people saw at all.
And I think what we get wrong as a society is we tie good looks to health. And I've said this openly on my TikTok that I was the hottest, I'm using quotation, but I was the most ripped, the skinniest, the most tanned looking when I was addicted to alcohol and I was doing cocaine 2 to 3 times a week. Do you find that in your industry that health and appearances, they don't necessarily go hand in hand?
I absolutely agree. But I also think we need to change the narrative of what beauty is. To me, now, beauty is the ability to light up a room and have a really contagious energy, which is exactly what you have. As soon as I met you, you gave me a big hug and you radiate. I'm sure the girl back then, unless she was on alcohol and cocaine, yeah, okay, maybe aesthetically, but radiance? No. You know, we need to change the definition of beauty. I look at my mum right now. She's the most beautiful woman in the world. She's got no hair in the hospital. She's not the definition, but she's resilient. She's strong. That's beautiful.
Dom, we're going to lead up to the decision of you going sober for 2025. But I want to talk to you about you trying to manifest before this decision whilst you were drinking. Did you find it harder for things to come into fruition?
I think when I look back, this is one of the reasons I went sober, is when I look at my life as if on a graph, productivity, success, and just purpose on the left axis, and alcohol, whenever I drank, that wasn't met. But when I chose to be sober curious last year, exponential purpose, exponential success. Yes, when I modeled, I had and I still do model, and I have a really good career. And I was lucky because with the modeling stuff, I guess it is just that appearance. But was I satisfied? Was my cup full? No. Since I stopped drinking, alignment is the word that I think of. I am so aligned. Like similarly to you, and you were talking about your purpose and your drive, I know exactly what I want in this world. When I was drinking, it was a blockage. I was just content and kind of hamster on a wheel energy. Now I just have growth mindset. So it absolutely was a blockage in terms of manifesting.
You being sober curious last year, talk me through your mindset during these times.
So as I said, my dependency on alcohol and my bad habits in my early 20s, as I got older, the journaling picked up, meditation, I started really introducing these good protocols into my life. I let go of that dependency and I was able to beat it. But now I have like a crazy rigid nighttime routine, which I have to do everywhere. And we were saying before, I have to sleep in my own room. Like if I was traveling with friends, I can sleep in the same bed as Tom. But for me, in terms of sober curiosity, as soon as I started living in my passion, it became clear to me that alcohol wasn't serving. But I also do see alcohol as not a terrible thing. Like you go to Europe and people drink and it's a way of celebrating. In my life though, whenever I drank, I would say I'm quite an extreme person. So I'm either not drinking or I'm drinking. Like there is no in between. So I made the decision to go sober curious last year. And every time I drank, I didn't feel better for it. I would have had more fun not drinking. And I had a heightened awareness that it didn't serve me. And I realized that instead of drinking becoming a decision, it was a habit. You go out with friends, you drink. It wasn't as it was just part of it. And I thought, I feel that I don't need it. And going from sober curious to sober has been the best decision because no one can twist your arm anymore. I'm like, this is the challenge. It's like when your friends are doing 30 days, you're not going to encourage them to drink. You're so excited for them. But if someone's sober curious, you might be like, oh, I just have one.
Just have one.
you know?
Yeah, it's Friday. Have one with me.
Yeah. And I just always thought I was drinking to satisfy everyone else's needs except myself. And I decided that actually I'm going to prioritize myself, and me not drinking shouldn't impact anybody else. I love a mocktail. Me and Tom love a non-alcoholic beer, non-alcoholic wine. We still love cheersing. We love everything that comes with drinking. And it's actually funny, on a side note, people always message me, what are some dates you do with Tom, like not drinking? Everything the same. Like, we go to dinner and we go to shows. Like, we'll see go to a concert. We just don't drink alcohol. It's so funny because people who drink can't imagine not having it as part of the date. So yeah, that was kind of the awakenings for me and the journey from sober curious to sober. And I'm loving it so far. I actually was saying off mic that we had our engagement. Did we say it's off mic or did I say it on mic? The engagement
Yeah,
thing?
we've talked about the engagement at the start.
But did I say how we didn't have alcohol?
No.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, we were yapping before. When Tom proposed, I thought, this is a moment you have a champagne. Like, this is where you pop a bottle, have a rowdy night. But we didn't. We put kombucha in our wine glasses, played Monopoly Deal, had, like, the best night. And in the morning, I was like, I'm so happy we didn't drink. Because now we're fresh and we love each other and it's perfect. Like, you have to have those learnings for yourself, though. I think if any of your listeners, which I'm sure they are curious about it, you need to have those learnings for yourself. You need to not drink, journal the next day, check in with yourself, reflection, and be like, okay, I didn't need it. You don't need it.
It's just the habit. It's
a habit.
Talk to me about sobriety and your social life, because you live in Bondi, is that correct?
I'm literally behind icebergs.
Oh,
like,
well,
I'm literally in the thick of it.
Yeah, how has your social life changed now that you're sober?
Well, I have to say I have let go of a big group of friends. Still adore them. If I saw them, absolutely love them, but they are big party people. And that's fine because I actually don't want to live that lifestyle. But my core friends, we are closer than ever. And I think living in Bondi is funny because it's such a contradiction in a sense, because you've got people there who do party and they go out, but I live on the Bondi to Bronte walk. I every morning run clubs, like so many people really prioritizing their health. And I actually saw a stat in 2020, 30% of young people didn't drink. In 2024, 43% of young people don't drink. So that we're seeing a massive shift in people not drinking. Restaurants now, they all have mocktails. So to be honest, I've let go of friends in a really good way. The friends who have stayed, stronger than ever. The new friends I've met, because they're really health conscious, it's so fun because our definition of fun has changed. I think that's also a thing. People think, oh, you're so not fun. No, my definition of fun has changed. My definition of fun is getting a matcha, watching the sunrise, jumping in the ocean. That is fun to me. Getting 8 hours sleep, like nothing better. When my Aura ring is like a good sleep score, I'm so happy. So yeah, I definitely feel a change in my friendship groups, but more fulfilled by my friendships. And not just friends, like family. Because I remember being with my family and thinking it's a bit boring. Now with my family, I'm like, I love my family so much.
It's interesting when you said about the friendship groups, because I'm the exact same. But when I say I've lost majority of my friends, I think people expect me to just be like sitting in a corner rocking back and forth with the lights off. What I mean is there's just nothing more in common there. They've gone their way and I've gone my way, but I feel so much love for them. And you're right, like more authentic people come into your life. And I think with less expectations, less high expectations, because they're new friends and they're so on your wave. Okay, the moment you decided no drinking for 2025, where were you? Who were you with? What were you doing?
So I was in New York in October.
Don't tell me this was a New York decision.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Well, no, so I was in New York in October and I went to see my best friend, and she loves a boogie. She won't mind me telling you that on the pod. And I hadn't really drank. I was sober curious last year. I hadn't really drank, and I'd gone off the pill. My skin had gone really bad, And I think that was a big catalyst for me wanting to go sober, because if I ever even had a wine, it'd flare my histamines, and I was on a histamine diet and my skin just went, rah. And being a model,
yeah.
I was like, my life is over. Like, I really feel for people who struggle with their skin now that I've dealt with it, because it's all you think about. And when you talk to people, you're thinking they're looking. And now my skin's better. I don't look at anyone's skin. Like, I literally don't take notice of it, but I get it when you're in it. And I went on a flight to New York, which is like over a day. Got there and we went straight on the mugs, went out, ended up at a kebab store, and my skin and my stomach and all the hard work I had done to kind of heal my gut felt like I just reversed it. And then we did it again. And then after that night, I decided I'm not drinking anymore this trip. So I was doing mocktails and like going back to my hotel, having early nights. And I actually haven't had a drink since. So that's October, because I felt so shit. And I remember like feeling like I couldn't make the most of the trip and the travels and the experience because I was so hungover, so tired. I felt like I was just like there, but I wasn't being, you know? And for me, life is about living it living it in the most fulfilling way in every single moment. And I just felt like, yeah, just that scat feeling. Ugh.
Yeah.
Now when I think I don't know if you're the same, but like when I think about like coming home past like 2 a.m., I'm like, gives me this heebie-jeebies.
Even when we came home from a concert, what was it, like Kate Shinada at like 12 a.m., I was like, is this a bender? Are we on a bender? This is way too late for me
But the thing is, you went to Kate Shinada. Like, I think people think, oh my God, if you're not drinking, you don't go to concerts, you don't do anything. Like, you go.
You go. Also, you just don't like spend $300. You don't embarrass yourself and you don't lose your wallet. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
The duality in your trip of being hungover for the first couple days, drinking heavily, and then doing it sober. What was that like? Did you have a good end of trip?
Yeah, so it was quite interesting. So the first half of the trip, I stayed at my friend Robbie, and I was on like a sofa bed and we were drinking and everything. And then the second half of my trip, when I was like, I can't do this anymore, I'd booked myself a really beautiful hotel, and my PT here recommended a PT there. So I went to doing PT sessions, saunaing, went and did like a lymphatic.
Oh, heaven.
So I was doing all of that stuff, and I thought, this is what fills my cup up. This is my definition of health. I feel so happy right now. And that complete like opposites in a whole trip. Like I was that's the cool thing about New York. There's both. Like there's the party scene, and it definitely is a city that doesn't sleep. But then there's also a big wellness community, and they've got the most epic healthy grocery stores. And like I'm that girl who goes to the grocery store and looks at every label and just enjoys it. So I got to do that, and I realized I'm my best self now. I think I needed that contrast to realize, okay, that doesn't serve me anymore. And yeah, it just has felt so natural. Like doing New Year's sober, we had a big party at the house. I had a matcha before. I was like, everyone thought I was like beaming. And like when people go in the bathroom and doing whatnot, I just went in there. I was like, yeah, like I was just like there, but it didn't matter. Like I just had so much fun. And I think, yeah, I just feel the happiest I ever have. And those moments, like the engagement when I think, oh, having a drink would be nice. I'm so freaking happy. Like, what is it actually going to do? It's a habit. It's a habit. And my partner, we were saying how it's so important, like, to feel supported. But also if your partner's doing it as well, it's just the cherry on top. And Tom doesn't drink in Sydney. Like, that's his rule for this year. Because we are going to Europe this year. I think he'll have, like, a few drinks here and there. But, yeah, because he doesn't drink, it just wasn't even a question.
No, you're
which is
so right.
so good, because you were saying you guys are the same.
Yeah, you need someone with you, whether that be a partner. Well, I mean, we're very blessed. Whether that be a partner or even a best friend who you constantly check into.
Accountability
you
is
absolutely need accountability. Or even I've encouraged my followers, fucking jump on TikTok and make a video. Just put it out to the world just so you have any sort of accountability. If you're living out in bumfuck nowhere, that's a bit broken on me, but in a rural country, just, you need accountability. Dom, what is the most interesting thing you've learned about yourself these past 5 months, 4 months?
Yeah. Most interesting thing I've learned about myself, it's probably that I am a bubbly, social being, and I don't need alcohol for it. I always thought I was an introvert extrovert, and when I was in my extrovert, like going out and partying, I needed those uppers. But I've actually realized when I hang out with the right people, my glass is full, and that's actually when you know you're an extrovert, because I just was hanging out with the wrong people who weren't filling my cup up. So realizing I'm actually a big extrovert, which is crazy because you think alcohol would make you more of an extrovert.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably my biggest learning. But honestly, I just think there's so much like to dive into, even just with self-dom and the podcast and the journal and, you know, doing the retreats. Like that would have just never come into my life if I drank alcohol. It just wouldn't. It truly wouldn't happen. And like even just the love that Tom and I feel, it's so pure. It's just so special. And I think the first year we did drink together and party together, and then the sober curious year was like when we actually bonded more and like discovered each other in our most authentic way. I always say that not drinking is a superpower. And one of the ways it's a superpower is because you're so present in the moment without these uppers. You learn deeply about the people in your life.
And there's no more mask. It's just your communication is so much more clearer. There's no hangover. You're not sad. You're speaking my language, girl. Dom, I'm going to start wrapping up this interview, but I want to know, you know, your energy has just been amazing. I want to soak up every last second I can with you. What is something you're looking forward to for this year, or what do you hope to achieve from the year of sobriety?
Well, it's quite interesting because obviously I just got engaged, so that's top of mind. But yeah, like doing the wedding is something I'm really excited for, and doing it sober would be like the idea.
So you think you're going to do it sober?
I think so, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I know so actually. Not I think. Like absolutely. So doing a wedding sober would be amazing, and something I really want to do, and we should actually tee up for it. I want to host an event for men and women, and it'd be like a party but sober. Like I think even with ecstatic dance, like just something for the sober community to come around to, because since I posted that video and shared it on my channels, the amount of outreach from people just wanting that opportunity to meet other like-minded women and men, it's so important. And I think all the wellness things we see are like ice baths at the beach and group meditations, but like, let's have a party. That is sponsored with kombuchas, and it's a vibe. I think that would be such an epic achievement for the year.
Oh, let's do it.
Let's fucking do it. Let us know if you want us to do it.
Dom, I have just loved every minute of, like I keep saying, your energy. And that is your biggest compliment, right? Because energy does not lie. And if this is what 5 months of sobriety can do, I'm so excited for the listener who's listening and sees themselves in you. Where can my listeners find you? Where can they follow you? What have you got coming up?
Yeah, amazing. So you can find me at Dominique Ellisa, and my podcast is Self-Dom. And if you're curious on starting your journaling journey, I have a journal with day and night prompts and quotes at the top of the page, and I've given your listeners 20% off. They can use Soberly Speaking at checkout. And in terms of future things, I'm doing a mini retreat in Byron, and just make sure you follow my channels to see what's coming up, because I do them every month.
Thank you so much for coming on Soberly Speaking.
Oh, absolute pleasure. I don't want this to end. I'm having so much fun.
Thanks, girl.